Serious. People with nightmare siblings. What's the most beep up thing they ever did?
My brother is in prison for kidnapping, assault with a deadly weapon, evading arrest, attempted murder, possession of an illegal firearm, possession of a controlled substance, possession of a controlled substance with intent to distribute, manufacturing a controlled substance with intent to distribute, and as a cherry on top of the beep pile, rape. Here's the truly messed up thing. The rest of the family was surprised it wasn't worse.
She had a nice job working for the FBI. Her job was to do background checks on people in need of security clearance. There was a guy she knew and liked, a cruise ship captain, needed to renew his clearance. To try to get him pissed at his girlfriend, my sister added items to his girlfriend's criminal record. Since it was a renewal, the guy escalated it, and what my sister did was discovered. She was convicted and sent to federal prison for a year. What really screwed it up was she didn't tell her kids, they were in their late teens and early 20s, that she had court issues. So they came home from school to an answering machine saying, "Mommy can't make dinner tonight because she'll be in prison for a while."
I was maybe 8 or 9 when this happened. For context, my dad was deployed and my mom was working, so my brother had to babysit me. My brother was around 16 at the time. As soon as my mom left, he shoved me into a closet and locked me inside for 6 or so hours. I was scared of the dark and couldn't reach the light string. He didn't let me out to use the bathroom or eat anything, so I ended up going on myself and sitting in the dark until my mom came home. She told me that he was asleep in his room when she got home. Needless to say, I really hate him. He's still an awful person, by the way.
While my mom was dying of lung cancer, unable to move and in horrible pain, my junkie brother stole all of her opioid bandages. She even kept them under her pillow, so no one could have access to them. He would bend to kiss her, and sneak his hand under to grab them. Edit. To clarify, since English is not my first language, opioid bandages should be opioid patches. At the moment of typing this, I couldn't think of a proper translation for the word flaster that's used over here.
It's hard to decide between him trying to strangle me to death in my sleep, him permanently beep up my hip with a metal bat when I was 9, and him spending over an hour at my birthday dinner recounting every single story of him intentionally hurting me as a kid, most of which I had always thought were accidents, and getting everyone to laugh about it / at me.
Dropped a barbell on my face while I was laying on the couch, breaking one of my front teeth and causing permanent jaw damage. Not to outdo himself, the same brother tried to stab me in the ribs with a homemade shiv, causing significant injury a few years later. And he wonders why even decades later I want nothing to do with him. Edits for additional context. The first incident occurred when he was 7, the second when he was 14. They are just the highlights of a long series of dysfunctional psychopathic behavior. He did spend time in juvenile hall over the second incident. I've had no contact with him as an adult, so I don't know his fate during the interval. We are several years apart. That's as much context as I'm willing to share. Thanks for the awards and the great questions.
He married a girl. Wedding had a lot of beep to our family in it, but aside from those, announced at the wedding, we're pregnant. Turned out, about 4 months at that point. They had the baby. 1 month later he announces, "It's too much, she's a beep, I can't take this, I'm leaving and going to move in with a friend from work." Turns out friend from work is 8 months pregnant at this point with his next kid. By some miracle he doesn't leave that girl when the baby is born, but gets her pregnant again, about as soon as is possible. I don't know if she wises up, or something else at that point, but baby mama number 2 kicks him out then. Now he lives in my parents' basement, refuses to drive an hour to see his kids, cause what good is that? One of those kids he spent their first month of life with and has seen about a dozen times since. The second I think he spent the entire first, call it, 10 months of their life together till mommy was knocked up again and hasn't seen since, and the third he'd never seen.
My older brother once sat on me and mummified me with duct tape and then left me outside in 30-degree weather while he played PS2 with headphones on. He taped my hands and feet together first and then the rest of me. I couldn't even fight back. I was left that way until our mom got home a few hours later and grounded the beep out of him.
My younger sister grabbed the wheel while I was driving. And we almost went into a ditch. I asked her why she did that. She told me she wanted to see my reaction. Edit, thanks for the reward.
My brother is 5 years older than me. When he turned 12, my folks trusted him to watch me when they went out for short trips to the store, dinner, whatnot. When I was about 8, I got into a terrible fight with my brother one night when he was watching me. I think it started with something stupid. I wanted to watch a movie and he wanted the living room and TV to watch something I thought was scary. He told me to beep off upstairs to my room. We almost always came to blows over everything. His reactions to arguments were always to get inches from your face and scream as loud as he could and puff up to intimidate. He 100% learned this from our father. He then would put hands on you if you stepped up to him, and I often did, and as I started to do to my father as well. That night we started screaming at each other and he slapped me across the face. I was so shocked I fell on my ass and looked at him in disbelief. He'd split my lower lip, he hit me so hard. I started to cry and said I was going to call our grandmother who lived about 30 minutes away. This was before cell phones and I didn't think about calling my folks wherever they were. As soon as I stood to run to the phone, he grabbed me by the collar of my shirt and tried to keep me away from the phone. I screamed and tried to push him away, but he grabbed my hair with his other hand and forced me into the ground. He was behind me, his arms shifted into a bear hug, his legs wrapped around mine, and I couldn't move. I felt his arms shift and one of his forearms went around my neck and his opposite hand clasped over my mouth, and then my nose. I screamed, or tried, but I couldn't breathe. I couldn't suck in any air at all. I clawed at his arms, but I remember trying to kick my legs and found they couldn't budge. We writhed like that, for what felt like a long time. But I clearly remember fading out and going dark. When I woke up, I was laying on the floor and I had peed myself at some point. I remember feeling so ashamed of that later. I felt so tired and sore, but I looked up and saw my brother sitting on the couch watching his movie and completely ignoring me. He had unplugged the 2 phones we had and had them in his lap. I couldn't move for a long time and I remember just laying there, hurting in my lungs, crying, but quietly because when I sucked in air my chest felt broken. He didn't even look at me, but he said if I told Mom or Dad he would shoot me. I eventually crawled into the kitchen, walked up the stairs, slipped out of all my wet clothes, and fell into bed and to sleep. I never told my parents. He is now 38, beat me many times before and after that incident, before he left the house at 18, but never that bad. He is a deadbeat dad, currently in prison for his 5th DUI and marijuana possession charge, homeless when not in prison, has never held a job more than a few months, lies, cheats, steals, and my dad still loves him to death. I don't think I have ever loved my brother. Edit. Thank you all so much for the kind words and outpouring of support. So many people have had similar experiences and that breaks my heart. I hope everyone who has or is struggling with an abusive person in their life finds the help they need. I didn't speak up when I was little, and I didn't think about it until today. Speak up. I wish I had a stronger voice back then. I didn't know this post would even get read. It spilled out of me this afternoon when reading the life experiences of other people and how they are working through their trauma. Their stories spoke so clearly to my own that, before I realized it, I was posting this memory. I am so very grateful to everyone for their supportive words. My heart feels so full right now. For those who are asking, I am doing well now. I ended up marrying my high school sweetheart. We've been married nearly 13 years. I work as a judge's assistant in a family court. I have plans to go into law school and work in the DA's office. I have a beautiful baby girl who we worship. Jury is out on if she will get a sibling.
Swapped my father's medication for aspirin. After father's heart surgery.
Much older siblings here, specifically talking about my oldest brother. I was about 12 and parents were pretty deep in poverty, but he had serious wealth in the insurance industry. He offered to buy us a manufactured home, no strings attached. We accept, pick it out, move in, etc. Then he says okay, your rent is this much, high rent for the area and something you would not move onto as a low-income family. Since we're already moved in and he holds the deed, we desperately scrape the barrel making the rent. When we can't do it anymore, eventually he puts the house up for sale. I'm 18 at this point. So parents move out of state to something they can afford and I'm left homeless. I'm good now though at 28. Bro has made a lot of good changes in his life, but I don't think I can ever forget this.
Spread semen on my pop star posters just to disturb me, threw firecrackers in my bed while I was asleep, and it strangled me with a PS2 controller cord, stole and pawned my belongings on a semi-regular basis, killed our pet parrot by putting it in a closet with a space heater, beat our dog in front of me with no apparent reason, etc.
This wasn't a beep up thing that my brother did to me personally, but I think it's worth mentioning. He and his, now ex-girlfriend had a super toxic relationship. I don't know the whole story as I was never close with her, and I don't trust my brother's account of things. But there was something my brother did once that made me decide, oh, he's not just a dick in a toxic relationship, he's a manipulative abuser. He had his friend text him pretending to be the girlfriend's best friend. They orchestrated this whole story in which the best friend came on to my brother, but he turned her down because he's loyal to his girl. He even went as far as to save his friend's contact info as the best friend's phone number. When he showed his girlfriend the texts, it obviously looked like her best friend sent them. She ultimately believed my brother over her best friend because the phone number doesn't lie. Also, my brother's a fantastic liar, so that helped. Anyway, they've been broken up for years now, and the ex-girlfriend and best friend still hate each other. They had been friends since they were 7. I haven't spoke to him since he stole money from me to buy weed and denied it until I threatened to file a police report. Last I heard, he's in a happy relationship. I wish that girl luck.
Used my own child to hurt me. My parents would babysit my young son while I was working and my older, adult brother was there. He has always hated me and done everything in his power to hurt me because I was the baby of the family. My son was around 5/6 of a year old and I caught him verbally impressing onto my child ideas of weird sexual fetishes. Like he was trying to corrupt him mentally to hurt me. Removed him from that situation as soon as I figured out what he was doing. I hate my brother, he has always done mean things to me my whole life. I swear he's a sociopath. ETA, this happened over 20 years ago.
I've got nothing on some folks here, but she poisoned my cat, threw out all my food while I was selling my belongings on eBay to pay rent, because I was too fat, and would use my things without asking, sometimes using all of my consumables and then saying to my wife, "Don't worry, he's got money." I really don't think she understood I was literally recycling bottles and cans to make rent, and she would steal the bill money I was saving for phone, internet, rent without a second thought and claim, to our landlord, I never paid her. The poisoning ended up being the last straw and we had to put him in an oxygen tent and he needed his stomach pumped, etc. When it was all said and done, we were out of pocket all of our savings, that we had recently started the home purchasing process and needed the cash to close. Instead, we couldn't afford closing costs, and we ended up forfeiting all the money we had put into the process before that point and had to deal with the broker wanting to sue us. So now I make it a point to never announce my visits to family. She's 60+ minutes away from most of them, so she doesn't have time to show up. If I see her car parked at the relative's house I'm visiting, I will just drive away rather than risk engaging with her again.
Tried to rape, molest, and kill me several times. I had myself removed from the house when I was 14. My parents would do nothing about it. That's just what brothers do. Yeah, 2 years ago he tried to apologize through text message. I refused to talk to him or be in the same state. This turned into him declare his romantic love for me and asking if I felt the same. I blocked his number.
My brother, who was 19 at the time, got a 15-year-old girl pregnant. I was only 10, but later found out that they had to go across state lines to Missouri to get married, because Illinois wouldn't allow it. Otherwise, he'd have gone to jail for statutory rape. Yeah, that marriage didn't last long.
My brother is extremely mentally ill and he doesn't have a short fuse, he has no fuse. So, when he tripped and my sister laughed at him, he charged at her with a knife and almost killed her.
I remember when I was 12, my younger brother who was 9 at the time got super pissed off at me. He ran to the kitchen to grab a knife. He chased me with it until I ran into my room and locked the door.
I missed my abusive father's funeral as he had died while I was on vacation in Mexico, and I wouldn't have gone anyway, to be honest. My brother, who has been in and out of prison for 30+ years, called to tell me that because I wasn't going home for the funeral I was a scumbag, and if he had someone like me in prison he would take the lid of a tuna can and slit my throat. I don't take his calls anymore.
She raped me.
May your day be filled with joy and happiness. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more quality content every day.